This is 7.5 Radio with Walter Yerkew and Peter Scoop Stanton. This is the radio show that will break your neck, if your neck needs breaking. And here are the hosts of 7.5 Radio, Walter Yerkew, star of the biggest documentary movie ever made, The 7.5, and Peter Scoop Stanton, who starred in To Catch a Predator.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. This is Peter Scoop Stanton with Walter Yerkew and Mike Regbrandt on 7.5 Radio. Check us out at 75radio.org, the number 75radio.org. We are red hot and rolling this 11th of October 2025 at approximately 5 minutes after the hour. Walter, how are we doing tonight, my friend?
Well, matter of fact, doing pretty good. There's a new movie going to be made. It's about squirrels. So I'm going to test for that, and they want to make sure I have the right nuts to bring.
Okay, Walter, you never disappoint. And also, back with us after a long illness, after smoking way too much raccoon poop, Mike Regbrandt. Mike, how are we doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, brother.
Doing
great.
Mike,
I'm sure Walter's nuts are perfect, though.
How would you know?
I'm just taking a wild guess here. I just get a guess.
Okay. All right. We're going from
There's also,
moving to...
there's also upcoming tennis movie too coming up.
Okay, let's hear it.
But, I got a test for that also. They want to make sure I have the right balls.
Okay. Anyways, Mike, I told you, stop.
You want to try for the potato sack race movie now?
Who, me or Mike?
You're the one calling the shots, bro.
No, I'm good. I'm not interested in doing film. I like to doing this radio. But anyways, for the few listeners we have left, we would like to say hello and thank you to New York's finest, New York's bravest, New York's boldest, New York's strongest, and those living on Long Island in the 2nd Congressional District. As always, first order of business is remembering members of the law enforcement community who are murdered in line of duty. Tonight we remember police officer Henry Franklin of the Skierson, Missouri Department of Public Safety. End of watch, October 6, 2025. His killer thankfully committed suicide. And also Deputy Sheriff Charles Riley of the Iberville Parish, Louisiana Sheriff's Office. End of watch, October 6, 2025. His killer is DOA. Our first story tonight has to deal with the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. The New York State Attorney General was indicted for applying for a mortgage for a house in Norfolk, Virginia, where she claimed this was going to be her primary residence, even though she was the Attorney General of New York State. And she got indicted federally. But what did she expect? She ran for office stating that she is going to go after Donald Trump, and she did. And James only could go after Trump civilly because there's no crime committed. James claimed that Trump overinflated the value of Mar-a-Lago to get a better rate with the bank's insurance companies. And he got the loans through various banks in metropolitan New York City. And here's the thing. He paid the loans back in good standing. And I know for a fact, I know somebody who retired from one of the major banks in New York, and they loved doing business with Donald Trump. This individual knew Donald Trump personally. So if Letitia James is going after Donald Trump for overinflating his property, then she would have to go after every person selling a house, selling some land, selling their mobile home, and every car dealer in New York State. Because guess what? They overinflate the value of their product that they're selling. But what does Letitia James expect? Well, I'll hand it to you. This is in your wheelhouse. What's your take on Letitia James being indicted?
Well, congratulations to the DOJ. For the past 2 weeks, they got Comey and this idiot and Letitia James, and kudos to them for finally getting off their asses and doing something. Letitia James, we know who she is. She's a vindictive son of a witch, and she is trying to climb that political ladder. Because what DAs want to do. They want to run for mayor, or be assistant mayor or senator and stuff like that. So her ladder rungs just broke from underneath her. As far as, inflating, Mr. Trump allegedly inflating Mar-a-Lago, you hit it right on the head. My house, I own it. I could ask what I want for it. What it's worth is what somebody will pay for it, you see. So I don't think Mr. Trump did this vindictively. He is now, I'm sure him and Melania smiled about it, quite a bit. Probably got a phone call from the DOJ, the night before, and that this was going to happen. Letitia James, she went on a few interviews and such, saying that, she will stand, she will fight, she will do this and that. If it's, Mr. Trump is doing this because of what her position and such, she's just crying wolf, she's crying a river. I think Letitia James, of course, she won't do any time. She'll probably pay a lot of fines, and eventually the case will be dismissed, for some reason. That's my feeling. I don't see her, in Virginia, being, smacked any harder on the wrist than, Fannie Willis was smacked on the wrist in Georgia. So this thing about being a proud, strong black woman in a white man's world has gone to crap. There are plenty of strong black women, strong white women, and it's got nothing to do with getting indicted for committing a crime. She committed a crime. Who was it? I can't remember who the CNN host was. She said, well, most people lie on their mortgage. No, first she said, well, everybody lies on their mortgage application. Then she went to most, and then she went to some. I didn't lie on my mortgage. I don't think any of you guys were going to lie on your mortgage, because if you do, then the bank can foreclose on it because it's a false document, charge you with a crime, and you lose whatever you put into your house. They just take it away from you. In Letitia's case, she lied, said it was her residence, which, of course, it's not going to be in Virginia. I don't know if she wants to be an FBI agent now down in Quantico. But I believe that all in all, as time goes on, this is going to be, forgotten to the point where it's going to get dismissed if after she pays fines and such. That's my thought. But she is a piece of crap. We know she is. I just have nothing good to say about this woman. Nothing. So I'll let it speak for itself.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything to add to that brilliant analysis from Walter?
Well, Walt nailed it, but yeah, he's absolutely right. Look, people in glass houses, right? So they used every bit of lawfare they could against Trump when he was the candidate coming back around for a second race here, or third race, really. But every bit of lawfare they could to try and destroy this man, bankrupt him, put him in prison, whatever they could do to get rid of him, right? Try to kill him. And none of it worked. And now what you're seeing is the blowback. You're seeing the blowback because there's always blowback. You can't, unleash the genie, so to speak, and not have the consequence. And that's what this is. This is consequences coming back at them. And I'm happy to see it because at the end of the day, even if like Walter says, and he's probably right that she'll end up just paying some fines and things like that. That'll go kind of basically just go away. So she didn't commit very serious felonies. She did commit crimes, but they're not like major serious felonies. But the fact that she's having to face those things is a lot of times enough. Like Bolton is about to be indicted, and there's others in this deep state, corrupt cabal that are about to be indicted and dragged out and put out in the open. I think that's great, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is exposing the inner workings of what these people did. So it's a good all around.
Outstanding. When we come back, we'll talk about Chicago refusing to help fellow officers. Also, Jay Jones running for Attorney General is a tough guy, and we endorse somebody for mayor. Stay tuned, everybody. This is 75 Radio on Liberty News Radio Network.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
You're back, and Scoop is just getting done staring at Danila's Instagram account. Here's more 7.5 Radio.
And we are back. Scoop Stanton with Walter Yerkew and Mike Rakebrandt. Our next story takes place in Chicago. Now imagine you're a law enforcement officer on a special assignment doing transport to and from central booking or those in corrections from one facility to another. And then outside of the station or the facility, an unruly crowd gathers. Some crazy lady rams your vehicle and brandishes a firearm. Shots are fired. All hell's breaking loose. And you need help. You get on the radio or somebody gets on a cell phone, call 911 requesting assistance from other law enforcement agencies. And your request is denied. Well, that's exactly what happened in Chicago last week. ICE agents were doing a transport, and their unruly crowd of Antifa bozos were causing a ruckus, impeding vehicle traffic in and out of the facility, just raising hell, just acting a fool, being disorderly. And so somebody did ram a vehicle, and all hell breaks loose. And so ICE calls 911, requests assistance from Chicago's finest. And as Chicago is racing to the scene, the chief of patrol notifies dispatch that all officers are to stand down. And the chief of patrol actually got on the radio and told police dispatch, hey, this is Unit 999, which I guess is the call sign for the chief of patrol, and says no officers to respond to that that call for service. And to make matters worse, they put it in the MDT, or mobile data terminal, or for you younger people, the laptop computer in the RMP. But just, Mike, what say you about this disgusting act from Chicago's finest?
I think it's absolutely disgusting, and it should be treated as criminal. At the end of the day, what he's doing is he's interfering with them, upholding their oath to the citizens of that state and city, and to police, to their own brethren. So to me, it's criminal, right? If somebody in the street interferes with a cop trying to do his job, or with a cop trying to assist another cop, they get arrested for obstructing government administration, all kinds of stuff, right? There'd be all kinds of charges about that. So why is he somehow, immune from that charge? Why is he somehow okay for him to do that? He's impeding police business, regardless of the fact that he's a chief of patrol. That's irrelevant to me. At the end of the day, someone's calling for help, especially other law enforcement, and you're telling your officers not to go. You're impeding. You're creating a very dangerous situation that can and will result in people being hurt and killed. Whether it's protesters who got out of hand that could have been taken care of more easily if there were more units there, or it's an ICE agent or other federal agent being murdered because things got out of hand. It's irrelevant. People are going to get hurt and killed because this man wants to play politics. No, he should be charged criminally for that.
Right. Now, Walt, I'm sure you went to a number of 1013s. What would you do if they come over the radio and they said, "We get enough units, all service not on the scene, go back in service"? Would you just go back to service, or just slow down the RMP for a little bit to take a look-see?
No, I wouldn't even slow down. Job be damned. Going to be out there to save somebody. But listening to an idiot. Just because they put stripes and bars and scrambled eggs on uniforms doesn't make them the smartest rock in the bag. So job be damned. Somebody screaming over the air, calling over the air, fighting for their life, and somebody says stand down. That means to not respond no matter what you hear. I'm going. There is no slowing down, none, no slowing down, and it's got to be heartbreaking to the officers who were responding. What do you do? I believe you keep going. I don't think you'll lose your job. You're supposed to obey. A lawful order, and that just wasn't a lawful order. The duty captain would have to explain to himself, explain why you got fired, because he gave a standing order to stand, order to stand down. Well, where did it come from? If it came from the duty captain because the duty captain felt like saying that over the air, did it come from somebody above him to say if anything happens to ICE, stand down? Yeah, it'd be a major internal investigation, and I'm sure any officer that responded and took action should get medals.
Exactly. And, even when I was with transit, we called 85s and 13s, and it looked like a parade other than RMPs that showed up just for, officer needs assistance. Officer needs assistance, times one, just like another body for what's going on. Because back in the day, transit worked solo patrol. So they might have somebody a little bit squirrely or whatever. And next thing you know, you got the whole shift rolling up for like a juvenile. But anyways, I'm looking at the mobile data terminal or the screen says please, or it should have been per chief of patrol, no units will respond to this as related from date and time. Caller is caller number one, approximately 30 armed border patrol agents, ICE, who are being surrounded by a large crowd of people requesting CPD. So they are requesting Chicago police to respond because they do need assistance. These are citizens. these are people that need assistance from law enforcement because they are being surrounded, and now you have people ramming cars and people brandishing firearms and shots literally being fired. And Mike, you nailed it on the head. These people should be disciplined. And I know for a fact I can imagine these men and women in these Ford Explorers just putting the accelerator down to the floor, flying to the scene. But again, just absolutely disgusting from leadership from Chicago PD. They should have told the mayor or whoever, go pound sand. Because again, you have members, you have colleagues in the law enforcement community requesting assistance from a department, and they stand down. But Mike, you think that would happen today? That ICE or another federal agency calls 911 in the 5 boroughs, and the duty captain or some chief tells the responding units to stand down because it's too political?
No, absolutely not. I think you'd have we used to call it the blue wave, right? You get crushed by the blue wave because everybody and their brother's coming. You call it 13, guys are dropping out of trees to help you. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But I don't think that would happen at all. I mean, MIPD right now, no, absolutely not. Are there elements of the MIPD that would definitely try and play a politics game with it, and maybe even try and put that word out? Absolutely. Would it be listened to? Absolutely not. I think guys would show up anyway.
Right. Hey, have you guys ever recalled somebody, a boss over the radio saying, stand down before units arrive? Because I remember even for transit, somebody called 13 or 85, and you hear sirens in the background just screaming, and the boss on the scene is going to say, all right, slow it down or disregard, go back in service, because you have a whole city block with the RMPs just wailing with sirens.
No, it's usually it's a slow it down when somebody shows up on scene, or call it off because it was unfounded. You don't just say don't go. Right.
Mike, how about you? You can recall any time they said don't show up, or it's not pertinent or not our fight?
Never, nothing like that. No, not at all. And they were trying to slow it down when you had enough units there, or like when they thought, when there's like a vehicle pursuit, right? They would always shut down the vehicle pursuits. The one time we had a vehicle pursuit was because they shot at foot posts from a car. We were chasing the car down Flatbush Avenue, and somebody tried to call off the pursuit, and the duty chief is like, screw that, chase those sons of bitches down over the air.
Right.
Because they shot at cops. So we did.
Right. Did you catch the perps?
Oh, we got them. Yeah, we got them.
Oh. Well, I'm sure they got a 5-star customer service from the crime scene to the station for processing and back to central booking.
Yeah, very, very, very bad night, and had a bad night.
Yeah, the perps that you catch like that, they all of a sudden they become religious. And the sidewalk is all of a sudden is their garden. They really just want to kiss it all the way to the station house.
This is true.
Right.
Well, did you kneeling,
Now when you bring it back to the station house for some heinous act like that, you make sure you stop at McDonald's, get them something to eat, something like that. See if they need to use the restroom or no.
No, we're just going to bring you on back and try to make sure, you get there safely and soundly so you can face justice.
Yeah, right. I'd stop at McDonald's for myself, but not true.
That's true.
couple of cold ones for the ride back to the house. But anyways, I just want to make perfectly clear, we are not blaming the rank and file of Chicago police. I know they have an absolute astronomical job to do, and this came from police brass. Anyways, we come back. Jay Johnson's a tough guy, and we endorse somebody for mayor. Stay tuned, everybody.
Proclaiming liberty across the land. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Mary Rose. Two separate high school homecoming celebrations in Mississippi ended in gunfire this weekend. Bob Agnew reports.
Officials report two separate shootings on opposite sides of the state Friday night that left at least 8 people dead and many more injured. 6 were killed in downtown Leland after a high school football homecoming game in the Mississippi Delta region on the state's western edge. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves said on the east side of the state, a pregnant woman was among the dead. About 20 people were hurt in the Delta region shooting. In Leland, 4 people were killed and 2 died later at a hospital. Bob Agnew reporting.
President Trump told reporters Friday he has not canceled a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping planned for late October in South Korea.
No, I haven't canceled, but I don't know that we're going to have it. But I'm going to be there regardless, so I would assume we might have it. But, they hit the world with something that really is not anything that people are going to do.
Most members of the Federal Reserve's interest rate setting committee supported further reductions to its key interest rate this year.
Minutes from last month's meeting show a majority of Fed officials feel there is a greater chance unemployment would rise, and the risk of rising inflation has either diminished or not increased. Only one official formally dissented from the quarter-point rate cut in September, Stephen Myron, who was appointed by President Trump. He wanted a bigger cut, but the minutes underscore the deep division on the committee between those who feel the Fed's short-term rate is too high and weighing on the economy, and those who point to persistent inflation as a reason to remain cautious. Ed Donahue, Washington.
President Trump posted today that he will be using his authority to direct Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to use all available funds to pay the troops on October 15th. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You know, life moves fast. Staying sharp, focused, and clear-headed isn't always easy. That's why the same company that brings us Relief Factor has developed something brand new, Think Factor. Think Factor is made to help you think clearer and perform better daily. It's a powerful blend of nutrients that unlock mental clarity and precision, nurture your memory, and boost your attention. With Think Factor, brain power and performance finally meet for lasting daily results. Supercharge your memory and mental sharpness. Your brain is your most valuable asset, powering your creativity, focus, and daily performance. If you're feeling mentally foggy or not recalling things as quickly as you used to, Think Factor could be just what you need to reclaim your cognitive edge. I am so thrilled with the results I personally have received from Think Factor. I'm thinking clearer and better than ever. If you've ever thought, I wish I could be more clear, more focused, try Think Factor today. Call 800-4RELIEF, 800 the number 4RELIEF, or visit relieffactor.com to learn more and order Think Factor. Think Factor. Think clearer, perform better daily.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Wow, you're still listening? Here's more 7-5 Radio.
And we are back, Scoop Stand, with Walter Yerkew and Mike Regbrandt. The next story really gets my goat because it's about Attorney General candidate in Virginia, my home state, trying to be a tough guy. Now, the three of us, myself, Walter, and Mike, have seen some things. We've seen some awful violence. We've been involved in violence. And we don't talk about violence, either in a humorous way or we don't talk about we're going to tune somebody up or something like that. And I've looked at our correspondence on text. I've listened to the archives. And we don't advocate violence against anybody, either on the air, off the air, on the phone, nothing. Meanwhile, you got this guy, Jay Jones, a real tough guy. He was texting a colleague when he was a member of the House of Delegates, which is the lower house in Virginia, and he wished that somebody would shoot House Speaker Todd Gilbert in the head with 2 bullets. And on top of that, he wished that Gilbert's kids would die, and that Gilbert's wife would watch their children pass away. And I don't know if he's trying to be funny or what, but just absolutely in poor taste. Yeah, it's a private conversation, but just absolutely poor taste. And this guy is running as a Democrat, so you know he's against your Second Amendment right. And if you look at the guy, you can tell he's never been in a fight in his entire life. But anyways, but like I've been saying all year, that the left is nothing but all about the violence. The situation in Chicago, you got Antifa committing violence. Portland, the people out there acting violence. And then Donald Trump had to have the National Guard come into Chicago, Memphis, and Washington, D.C. to stop the violence. Well, what say you about this guy who wants to talk about putting 2 bullets in a colleague's head?
See, you know, this goes back to when Mr. Trump was shot in July of last year, the first attempt on his life. It's unbelievable how people can say these kinds of things, and then it happens. You know, Charlie Kirk had many, many, many death threats. Mr. Trump has always had death threats. Even before he was thought about being president, he's had death threats. And, you know, it's the retaliatorial investigation is not good enough. Okay, I don't believe it's good enough or strong enough when something like this happens. This man is saying he wants this guy dead, and do you see anything happening? You know, if you write something on Facebook and your local Bureau of Investigation, what state you might be in, you know, they might come knocking on your door and wanting to question you about your statements. And of course, we all know we don't have to say anything if we don't, you know, of course, you don't say anything. But how in the world does a man like this get away with that, with saying that? And no repercussions, no investigations. I'm sure the DOJ, you know, opened up a file on it, and you know, but you know, Pam Bondi's been in front of the Senate Review Committee or whatever the hell they call it, defending the cutbacks on ICE and such, and you know, other agencies, and she's only cutting back waste, but there's no like recourse for me or you or Mike or anybody else when somebody says that. You know, you can get on Facebook and call him, an ass hat and, jackass and, blowing hot air, trying to blow hot air into a cold room. But there is no recourse at all that I see. I don't know if either one of you guys sees any kind of recourse to this until something happens. And it's just like, when we were cops, there's nothing to do until something happens. You can't go and create stuff. But he's already a perp. He's created a situation. So why can't that not be taken into consideration? Make him get a lawyer. Make him not answer questions. Freedom of speech only goes so far, and we've talked about this extensively. That's not speech that's friendly. And I find it freaking not only disgusting, but heartbreaking also. Somebody could say that about anybody else, and I'm not even going to say especially, a public figure, because they're no better than you, me, or Mike. But they say it out loud, and they post it, and it's on the news. And they say, yeah, I said it. And, then they come up with some kind of thing later on that, well, you know how people are when they get in the heat of the moment, they say things they don't really mean. Nonsense. I just don't know where we go from here when people say stupid shit like that. Excuse me. Stupid stuff like that.
Right. Because, my thing is that, what he said was absolutely disgusting, but he wasn't making a threat per se. But one thing it says, like, 3 people, 2 bullets, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Now, that's really that could go either way. But he does, fortunately, he does have a First Amendment right. So it's, I see where you're coming from, but then again, it's like he's not saying he's going to do it. But you said before, people talk about killing Trump, killing Charlie Kirk, and look what happened. Mike, you want to join us on this?
Yeah, this was a conversation he was having over text with another colleague. So he does have the expectation of privacy. This is not something he put in public media himself. It came out on its own. So I don't know that you could charge him necessarily for what he says in a private conversation. He's entitled to that right to privacy, that right to his free speech. But it does touch on the what's happening right now and what's been happening for a while now. You have all these very far left, politicians and pundits and talking heads, actively calling for these assassinations, actively riling up the unhinged base that they have to go out and commit these violent acts. And then as soon as a violent act happens, like after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, what do you see? It's the same side, the same people saying, oh, we got to bring down the rhetoric. The right needs to bring their rhetoric down. But it's not the right inflaming these people. They keep trying to paint all these people, like the guy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, whatever, as a MAGA guy, when it's just the furthest thing from the truth. They were inflamed by left rhetoric, far left rhetoric, not right-wing rhetoric. Nobody from the right wing is trying to do anything. Charlie Kirk was trying to talk to people. That's it. He just wanted to talk. And you killed a man. That's, it's because the problem goes far beyond just like individual candidates. They should be penalized themselves. So he should be penalized at the ballot box for what he said. And just for the fact that he's an idiot. But he should be penalized at the ballot box. He should be forced out of that position in every way possible and never elected anywhere again. But the problem then becomes to deal with the media and those that are pushing this from the very top down. So the Pelosi's and the Schumers and the rest of them that are Jeffries that are pushing all this stuff down on the people, and inflaming that base. They should be held accountable.
Right. You're right, Mike. And you brought up a couple good points. Like the shooter at the Minneapolis church, we condemn that. And then the shooter at the church in Michigan, supposedly he was a Iraqi war veteran and maybe a Trump supporter. That hasn't come out yet. We condemned them both. And in terms of Paul Pelosi, we were making jokes at Paul Pelosi because here's the Paul Pelosi in his underwear and this other guy in his underwear, and and the media and the Pelosi's were, and the city of San Francisco were very, they were very quiet about what happened. But then when the body cam footage came out, it was obvious. Pelosi's coming down. I was like, what the hell are you doing in the house? And then the guy went off. So, and we had nothing to say. We were making fun of the possibility of Paul Pelosi and this guy doing some freaky stuff. But anyways, we come back. We got a endorsement for New York City Mayor, the hometown of all of us. Anyway, stay tuned, everybody. This is 75 Radio on Liberty News Radio Network.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, by having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
This is 7.5 Radio with Walter Yuku. Walter Yurkow. Walter Kiwi. Here's Walton Scoop.
And we are back. I got so enamored with the Instagram account of our spokesmodel, Danila Rodrigues, that I wasn't looking up our next story. Anyways, check her out at DanilaRodrigues.model. That is DanilaRodrigues.model. And, it's a tough job. I got to go through pictures of her every single week to put on the archives. And it's a tough job, but I got to do it. Anyways, our final story is endorsement of the next New York City mayor. And 7.5 Radio endorses Curtis Sliwa for New York City mayor. Now, New York City's biggest problem is crime. No business is going to move into a neighborhood that has a crime problem. No family is going to move into a neighborhood that has a crime problem. No family is going to stay in a neighborhood that has a major crime problem if they can afford to move out of that neighborhood. So, anyways, pure and simple, Curtis Sliwa has been dealing with New York's crime problem up close and personal since before Zoran Mandami was even born. He started the Guardian Angels in 1979, and he's still going strong. And Sliwa's platform for the crime problem is to hire more cops, restore qualified immunity for New York's finest, grow community policing, get rid of bail reform, and challenge these bummy district attorneys whose first priority is not prosecuting criminals, but prosecuting cops, prosecuting people like Daniel Penny and other people that try to save fellow New Yorkers. Anyway, simply stated, he wants to get tough on crime. Also, we feel that Sliwa does have a better grasp on the job market, the business situation, schools, taxes, and just overall quality of life. Mandami, who is a Nepo baby, never had a real job. He has these pipe dreams. He wants to take property from the white wealthy business people of New York, turn them into, projects. He wants to open city-owned grocery stores, and we already know how that's going to run, and just have more social workers on the streets instead of cops. And then you have Andrew Cuomo also running for mayor. Andrew Cuomo was ousted from his job as chief executive for the state of New York because he gets a little too handsy with the ladies. So it seems like any Democrat politician gets in trouble for being a pervert, they leave office and run for New York City mayor. Look at Anthony Weiner. So Andrew Cuomo just ran New York State into the ground. His only accomplishment was to name the new Tappan Zee Bridge after his father, who was also an awful governor, and also to write a book while New York was suffering through the COVID pandemic, so he can talk about what a great leader he is. So anyways, our money is on Curtis Sliwa. He's not the perfect candidate. I mean, he's 70 years old. He's still running around that red beret. He's no Rudy Giuliani, but he's much, much better than the two other people running for mayor. Mike, what say you about Sliwa for mayor?
He's the only choice on that ballot that makes any sense at all. The other two are going to burn it down the rest of the way. They're going to destroy what's left of the city. At the very least, Sliwa will be able to kind of start moving it back in the right direction again and getting it kind of moving in the right direction again. But these two they'll burn down what's left of it. Honestly, they're going to destroy what's left of it. You're already seeing like major banking houses starting to kind of shift their operations out of the state, out of the city. That's huge amounts of revenue they're going to go away for the city and the state. They'd be a death blow. If anyone thinks that they're going to vote for either of these two schmucks and it'd be okay, and they're going to keep their job and everything else, they're fools, because within 2 years their jobs will be gone, the city will be a failed city, will be completely destroyed. The state will fail, it'll be completely destroyed. It'll be a disaster of epic proportions, honestly. So Sliwa is the only way. He's the only choice. You have to vote Sliwa, period. That's it. There's nobody else.
Right. Well, what say you? You were around a little bit longer than us. You've seen the Guardian Angels up close and personal. Is Sliwa the best choice for New York City mayor?
Well, yeah. I mean, he like you said, he's 70, going to be 71 shortly. He's been a face of he's been a face in New York City for 50 years, and although he's not a career politician, far from it, community activist more likely would describe him. I see him like Mike. Sliwa is a stepping stone that needs to be installed so future Republican mayors can continue to get New York back to the way it needs to be, which is, an entirely, red city, red state to follow, and bring back many manufacturing, a lot of manufacturing back to the city. People work in the city every day. However, the more popular industries is manufacturing. You've got carpenter union shops that have closed down and moved to another state. You have electrical union shops that closed down and moved to other states. You have along those lines the trades. The masons. If it wasn't for the mafia banging into the concrete industry, we wouldn't have any new buildings going up. The issue is to bring back labor. Enough with this executive nonsense, Enough with this super white collar nonsense. We got to bring it back to the blue collar level of our skills. And, that includes the telephone company. It includes Con Ed. It's not called Con Ed anymore, I don't think. Along those lines, that's what we need. We need people that can afford to be in and around New York City, that can work in and around New York City to support New York City to become the smelting pot it used to be. And it's not anymore. It's not. It really isn't. If Dan Mammy is elected as mayor, remember when de Blasio was on there? He was such a thief, and his wife was such a thief. The NYPD at any, God forbid, a funeral, any kind of rally or event, NYPD would turn their backs on them and face the opposite way. And, I could see that happening day one with Dan Mammy.
Right. And while you're actually 100% correct as usual, Sliwa, or whoever's the mayor, needs to bring back the trades, because not everybody can start pushing papers. And like Mike said, these brokerage houses are leaving the city of New York. And we already have a shortage of skilled laborers, all the carpenters, the masons, the electricians, the welders. We have a shortage of that. But Sliwa, whoever the next mayor is, needs to make New York attractive for companies. Now, if I had a company making copper wiring for the transit system or for buildings, I'm going to have my company down in Tennessee, down in Florida. That way I'm not paying union wages and have all this regulation from the city and the state. And so that's something that the mayor needs to address. Also, just quality of life. Also, if I have a factory making women's garments in Lower Manhattan, my people, if they drive to work, they got to pay $6 to drive on a city street. So that's absolutely ridiculous. But again, another big city with big city problems. But look at the line of failure for the past 50 years. You had John Lindsay, you had Abraham Beam, you had Ed Koch's third term, which was a disaster. You had David Dinkins. And then we had some the golden years with Rudy Giuliani and even Mike Bloomberg. I didn't agree with Mike Bloomberg on a lot of things, but he kept the city running. Then we got Bill de Blasio, and we all called it. We said, oh, boy, there goes the city. And then Eric Adams comes in, and he was just a little less suckier than Bill de Blasio. But and I still remember when he was on the job, same time I was on the job, sitting there talking about kicking a cracker's ass and talking smack to the mayor and the commissioner. And why this guy wasn't busted down to a patrolman and go work the subways up in the Bronx in the middle of the night is beyond me. He was able to keep a cushy position at Police Plaza and just study for the next exam, and then got promoted to captain before he retired. So anyways, if anybody that lives on Staten Island, go out and vote for Curtis Sliwa. If the entire borough of Staten Island votes for Curtis Sliwa, guess what? Curtis Sliwa will be your next mayor. Anybody got any final points before we call it a night?
Just happy birthday to Sean Bergen. I don't know if we said that last week or not.
Oh, no, damn it. All right, happy birthday, buddy, Sean Bergen. Anyways, for Walter Yerkew and Mike Raybrandt, this is Peter Scoop Stanton reminding you, you can make a difference. Go out making it. See you next week, everybody.
This is James Edwards for 7-5 Radio. For those who work the streets and the jails, thanks for keeping us safe. So long, everybody.